Do you want us to get started?
Yeah, if you guys are ready to roll.
Okay. We work in HR for Evo Shield, so I'm the director of HR and Elise is the generalist, and so she works with me too. So we'll just be real informal with y'all too. So, but we did want to start out with something, so hang on one second. We like to think about interviewing and stuff, and we'll just kind of give you our perspective on what it's like as a HR director seeing resumes and stuff, but we wanted to kind of start off with sort
This is
of
how
an
people
example
do it now, they have their interviews.
of an interview.
I like it. I know.
Okay, here they are. Now when I hit this, you'll be able to see it. So come on and get in here close so we can be seeing what they see on small websites. You know, get cheese. Take care of it.
Don't crowd me.
We can see you guys. Okay, good.
You got it?
Hi, my name is Billy.
We can hear you fine as well.
Oh, great.
Good.
Billy McMahon.
Nick Campbell.
I'm Benjamin.
Allison, we're going to ask you a few questions that some of our candidates find a little bit odd.
Let's go.
No
Here.
judgment. Shoot.
You're shrunken down to the size of nickels and dropped to the bottom of a blender. What do?
You take your flat on your back like
You
this.
just lay back and
Like
enjoy that
it's a-
breeze.
like it's a feather.
Pretend it's a
And
fan.
let the
Okay,
flat
watch this
blades
one.
all around you like this. So getting an MRI.
Once this blender's on, it's on forever.
It's on.
Respectfully, I gotta disagree. We sold blenders, and even the best model in the world is only gonna run maybe 10 or 11 hours. So we're getting out, and when we do, we're better off for it, because whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
It's not so much getting out of the blender, it's what happens next. That's the question.
You've got two nickel-sized men free in the world. Think of the possibilities.
I mean, on top of my head, I'm just
But
going
it's
here.
swimming.
Sunglass repair?
Yeah.
How are those little screws?
Maybe stick us in those submarines that they put in people's bodies to fight diseases.
Okay, that's not a real thing, the submarines.
No.
Wait a minute, I thought we were stuck in a blender, now we're saving lives? What?
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 Let me just recap this for you real quick. We started off in a blender,
Yeah.
now we're saving lives. What?
What? What?
Wait a minute, we were stuck in a blender,
What a journey.
and now we're saving lives?
You guys led us to this. Thank you.
So that is an example of from that movie where they were interviewing with Google. So I thought that was kind of funny to kind of show you that that's probably not the way you want to handle an interview, but that's just sort of some things that are happening, right? So they're talking about things that don't make any sense. They're trying to be using cliches and all that kind of stuff. So we'll try to talk you through the better way to handle that kind of stuff real quick. So we just want to talk to you a little bit about the inside view from HR and then some suggestions for success, and then y'all can ask questions as we go through.
Can I ask a question real quick for you guys? Do you all have a version of a resume yet, or are you all just now starting to work on one?
I did one, but I had went to the it wasn't
Okay.
I helped the last 7 years with all the teams I've played with.
Okay.
The list of where
And
you
then do
play.
you have one?
I had one. I had that too.
Okay.
Hey man, how you doing? You doing alright?
Good.
Good seeing you.
So we're gonna help you with those too, which will be great. But yeah, that's a good question to start with. And so, Elise, you wanna
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of segues from that clip to this. It's that you all have to really think about this as this is your resume. It's your career, it's your life, it's your future. And so Bill Cosby said, I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is trying to please everybody. So as we talk about resumes, we're going to be talking about a lot of things you should do, you shouldn't do, and that sort of thing. But just realize that you can't please everybody. And so, you can go on.
Yeah. Okay. See you, Judy.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, so you can't please everyone, and so just kind of be thinking too that you want to follow professional guidelines, you want to, follow these general rules that we're telling you, but you also want, your personality to shine through as well. And just know that in doing that, your resume might not appeal to some people, but it will appeal to other people. So just kind of be true to yourself.
So one thing we thought is sort of first steps are just create a great resume, which I know they're going to help you with. We like cover letters from folks, especially from folks that have different experience. It's great to tell people who you are through those, and then explain things of where your career's gone and where you want to go from there, and kind of connect with the people who are reading it, because we get lots of resumes, and if they're just kind of blank or they're hard to understand or just plain, it doesn't really stand out. So you want to use that. We also talk about updating your online profiles. So if you all have already started Twitter accounts or anything like that, just keep in mind that someone is probably going to search that. It just takes one Google search of your name and lots of things will come up. So just keep in mind that your online profiles are important, and it's important to have a presence for sure and create a brand for yourself, but it's also important to make sure that it's what you want it to be. So be careful with it because they will look at it. Because I know we do search names real quick and find out a lot quickly about people, and then we may move you to the talk to file or the maybe not file. So kind of keep that in mind. Also networking and looking for available jobs is a great first step, of course. And then we always think about, hi, how are you? Come on in. We'll usually ask for professional references. So we usually say 3 is a good idea. So think about who you would put in that group, and then you don't necessarily have to give it to, at least for us, we don't need it at the beginning, but have it in mind. So if we move forward in the process with you, you can give it to us quickly. It's always a good idea to ask them if they're okay with being a reference, so they're not surprised. So you want to kind of make sure they're going to say good things.
Yeah, let them know that you're putting them down as a reference, but then also let them know, like, anytime. So if you've applied to 5 different jobs, you might want to let them know what those jobs were, and so that they know that they might be getting a call or something.
Yeah, we don't want to surprise them. And then the next step would be just to apply for the job. So here's sort of a look at a basic resume. We tend to like sort of the 1-page resume usually. Let's see. What do you want to talk about? Just sort of, we were just talking about this, summarizing your
Yes,
experience.
so you want to, in a resume, you want to summarize things. So instead of saying something like, I played football for, such and such team and blah, 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 you would just want to summarize it into like a bullet point, like, the dates that you played and what the team was or something like that. Because I think the statistic I read is that most hiring managers look at your resume for 7 seconds. And so that you have 7 seconds to get your information across. And so you want it to be in some sort of format that they're going to be able to easily see what the most important things are. So you definitely want to summarize and just highlight key things, and definitely highlight anything that is a transferable skill. So for you guys, having a background in athletics, let's say you are yeah, but let's say you, I'm trying to think, like, if you were applying for a job in HR or something, you might want to highlight some of those transferable skills of, like, how, maybe on a team you have worked with other, you've been a team player and you have helped mentor younger students or, something like that.
Captain or something
Exactly,
like that.
and try to, like, highlight things that are transferable, because there always are. And so in any role, when you're switching jobs, like I used to work at a nonprofit, and then I've transitioned to EvoShield, and when I was doing that, I had to highlight what had I done at the nonprofit that was transferable to go back to the for-profit world. So.
And I think we said too, especially for athletes, we're an athletic company, so it's great. We love that experience, but we don't have to know everything about what you did, each position you played or anything like that. We just need to know sort of your overall, that you played for these teams and that you're looking to do something different, or you want to transfer your skills from that. And especially, everyone knows we were talking about the schedule and things for athletes here. And I'm sure through professional sports, especially the schedule, the dedication, that's really important. So highlight all that information to us, because that's what we're going to connect with. Like, this person's going to work so hard and we want them here. That's the kind of thing, commitment, things like that.
We get a lot of, at EvoShield, because we are a sports company, we get a lot of cover letters and that sort of thing that will start, and they're like, I love sports. And it'll be like, I started playing Little League when I was, 6 years old or whatever. And we don't need to know. If you're applying to a sports company, we probably assume that you like sports, and that's one of the reasons. But I love seeing cover letters that talk about, maybe they played in college, but they had a leadership role or something like that. So anything that, again, those transferable things.
Or your passion about it is important, but just not maybe the full focus on that.
Right.
And then we think too, with references available upon request, some people will put that on resumes, things like that. To me, that's sort of a given. We'll ask for your references. People have different opinions. We said, we'll give you our opinions, and then you kind of choose what you want to do, and I know Career Services can help you with that too. Our thought is have the references available. If you're in the interview or on the phone call with me, say, I would probably ask you if you had 3 references to send to me, or you can say, hey, I've got references for you too. So that's sort of a given. It's just one of those things that it's not necessary in our opinion to include it. We said sometimes people put objectives on there. To me, we don't really look at it. What I'd rather know is a good cover letter where I can kind of get a feel for who you are and then your experience. That's the most important to me. I would think your objective is to get a job that you like,
Right.
which is great. But it's just one of those things to me that I'd rather just have you spend time on. If it's a one-page resume, which is what I would recommend to most people, unless you just have been in the workforce forever, just kind of focus on other things than waste space on that.
And you think sometimes like companies and people like doing interview that they kind of look at certain people and then like let's say an athlete for example, they've been involved in football for X amount of years, knowing that they don't know nothing but football, but you trying to like figure it out and get into this new world, you know what I mean? And you trying to get this new company, or whatever, like you think people kind of use that, you know what I mean? They be like, okay, he don't know nothing but football, I need somebody that's able. But they don't realize that, you know what I'm saying, by playing football, I mean, it's a part of everyday life, you know what I'm saying, everything that you do.
Yeah.
That's why I say you focus, driven, family oriented.
Yeah,
You can
that's-
perform under pressure, you know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying, you know how to be clutch in clutch situations.
That's right.
You feel me? Like,
Yeah, and that's what you would focus on.
Yeah.
Because I think you're exactly right. You could run into that. Same thing with someone getting out of college. Kind of like, okay, all I've done is college. I don't have any new. But that's what we're talking about exactly. Is you put that stuff, purpose oriented, very driven, committed. Play when I'm hurt. I mean, all of that stuff is what we would look for. So I think you're going to have to overcome some of that because there may be a little bit of prejudice against an athlete for that reason of like, well, they don't know business. But some of it's great, because then some people a lot of times will say, well, they don't know this way, so I don't have to break old habits. I can teach them
Fresh
our
perspective, yeah.
Yeah, especially again like a sports company or something like us, we appreciate that, and we're founded by athletes. So there's some companies that will really identify with it. So it's going to be both, right? You're going to have some people that love it, and some people like, but you can overcome it with personality, with references, with really getting to know them, and a good cover letter and help from career services, I think, to kind of really show them, this is part of me, but it's not all of me.
And I'd go back to our first point too about just remember that this is your career, it's your life, it's your future. And so when you are applying somewhere and you feel like, well, they might discriminate against me because I was an athlete or something like that, think about that too as like, do you really want to work somewhere that's gonna, like you wanna highlight again those transferable skills, but if they don't recognize if you have represented yourself the best way you possibly can on your resume and your cover letter and they still don't want you, then remember that you're selling yourself. And so if they don't want you, then you need to find somewhere else that does. And so just, I think people just get so discouraged sometimes about, they might want to work somewhere, but it's not always the best fit. So you have to think about that too. You want to be somewhere where you're going to be appreciated and seen for the skills that you have.
Okay, this is a big point for us is we think great resumes are honest. So what that means, of course, for us is there's no really need to stretch the truth or make it into something that's not. So again, put your information in the best light possible, but be honest with what you've done and what you haven't done. So that way if we ask you, you don't have to worry about, wait a minute, what did I write on my resume? It wasn't exactly right. Just be honest with us. That's important because at some point, you'll usually be found out, which is not a good thing. So you just want to live an honest life, of course. And so part of a great resume to us is something that tells us really about what you do. And you probably have had some great experiences and some great information. So that's what we need from you. So that's our thought on there. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you. And we also think great resumes and cover letters speak to your audience. So one thing I did, Elise actually hired me at EvoShield. So one of the things I did was go on the website. Google Bob, learn about the company, learn about Elise, learn about their products, things like that. And then I really identified with the website and what their vision was and things like that. And so I crafted my cover letter to talk about passion and vision and what I love every day and what I want to give to a company. And so I think that helps get it noticed more than someone who would say something just generic about HR. So would it take a little time? Now it's so great with the internet, right? You just Google a couple things, find out what they're really passionate about, and see if that connects with you, and hopefully it will. And so then write about that in your cover letter.
Right. I think a good thing to do is like in your cover letter, if you go to a company's website and you read about like what their company values are, and then you can speak to in your cover letter how those values are something that you value. Just anything that can kind of set you apart as far as like I've done my research. I think that that's really good. And then also just, again, going back to it's your career, you want to know the company for yourself as well to make sure it's somewhere that you want to work. So, and you want to tailor your resume based on what type of company you're applying for. So back in, this picture here, this is a very basic black and white resume. And this is typically what we
Looks like
see.
mine,
This
yeah.
is, that's what mine looks like too. And if you just Google like how to write a good resume, they're going to tell you, don't use colored fonts, don't use, crazy scripts and all these different things. Don't put your picture on there. But I wanted to show you an example. This is my friend Katie, and she said it was okay for me to show you guys this. This is her resume here. And so she's kind of breaking every rule here that they quote unquote tell you what, not to do on a resume. However, Katie is a marketing and graphic design professional. And so what she's doing through her resume is representing who she is, kind of like who she is as a brand. And so even though this is not your, typical resume, this is her weeding out the companies that she doesn't want to work for. Because she wants to work for a company that's really creative and appreciates that. And so you'll see, I think we even talk about it later, about like don't put your hobbies and that kind of thing. She has a whole section about like random facts about herself. And so, but the reason she was doing that is because she was saying like, I want a very specific type of company, a very specific type of role. And so she did it purposefully. So again, just have a reason for, why you're doing something. And if you want, if you're looking for a more creative type role, your resume might look a little different than if you're wanting to do investment banking. So,
And in fact, our graphic design person told me, Amy, don't send me anything that's Times New Roman and it's plain, because that's not a graphic designer. I'm like, okay, that's what I know. So anyone that come like this, and she obviously has a lot of experience too, which is great. So, the more experience you get and stuff, you can be a little bit more free because your experience speaks for itself in a lot of ways. But, and this to me, I've met her, this matches her personality, which is great. I wanted to speak to you real quickly about great resumes because I've missed one of our notes about it, is that we had someone recently who worked for us for 2 weeks, a week and a half.
2 weeks, but maybe only worked 2 days.
And he connected with me on LinkedIn, which is fine. And then I saw on my LinkedIn all of a sudden an update. He had just resigned from us. He worked for a week and a half at this college program where we just have him pack pockets and stuff. And so he had updated his experience to College Packer at Evo Shield, and I'm like, well, that's great. And then he resigned, and then it still shows that he worked with us on his resume. I'm like, well, I'm not so sure that if you work for someone for a week, that's appropriate to put on there. Normally they work for us like 8 weeks, 10 weeks, that's fine. But if you sign up, work for 2 weeks, it makes me think
you did it just
you
to
did it to put it on there, and then you went and he's got some other internship now.
Right.
Because now we're hooked on LinkedIn, so I see his updates. So it was all I could do not to respond to that Evo Shield one, like, we really miss you. It was a great 2 weeks. Thanks for hanging out. But I did not. But anyway, that's just to kind of think about with online and updating and stuff. And he may have just changed his mind, which is fine. But I would probably, if I worked somewhere for a week and a half, probably wouldn't put it on my resume. Because someone may call us, and we'd be happy to give them those dates. So just think about that when you think through it. This is the next part. We say great resumes and cover letters are specific. And so basically, of course, with that, we're saying that we want to know about you. We want to know about your skills and what you're looking for. One thing is data, which is important. So if you broke records in what you're doing or being an athlete, then that's great. Put that on there. If there's something that you did in another job where you saved money or for the company or came up with new products or something like that, that's what we want to know, is actual specific things that happened. But if not, that's okay. Like you may just be starting out and there's not that yet, but just think of it as you work forward when you get a job. I always try to keep in mind and sometimes write down or update my resume as I go, because hopefully you're in a job that you want to stay forever, but it's always nice to have an updated resume. So if you know you did something great, then go ahead and keep track of that. So you know next time you put it on your resume, you'll have some information to add to it. Or think about it now as you're going through this process. What have you done that's unique that people would think, oh my gosh, that's great, or that they can ask you about in an interview, and that you're passionate about and care about, and you can give an insight into who you are.
Yeah.
And especially in the cover letters, that's a great place to speak to who you are. This is sort of one of our pet peeves. We can speak to this easy.
Yeah.
Once you've decided on some great places to apply, which you can see on LinkedIn, you know, now people post on Craigslist and stuff now. That's a real place that I've posted real jobs before too. And then Monster and all those kind of stuff. Look on those and apply. But one of the main things we say is follow the instructions that we give you. So if I ask you to apply to this website and then put something in the header, I know that's what you always do is in the what is it?
Yeah.
The
subject line.
The subject line, thank you, where you're saying this position. So if we ask you to put that in there, just take a minute to make sure you put that in there.
Yeah.
So if people don't follow our instructions, I'm probably not gonna look at your resume.
Yeah.
I don't want to at that point.
Yeah.
I'm kinda irritated.
Right.
It's probably a Friday afternoon, we're trying to get out of the office, but we know we've gotta look at these resumes. If you're not following our stuff, it just
Right.
makes me feel like you don't
It's a way
pay
to check
attention to
it.
detail.
Yeah, it's a way to check and see slick, like if you pay attention.
Yeah.
That's right.
It is, because
That's right.
we don't wanna hire someone that's not gonna follow directions either,
Yeah.
you know?
Because it's kind of like the dating time, right?
it
This
is.
is probably the best you're gonna look to us. Is We're
Exactly.
trying to look good, you're trying to look good. And if you can't, like, follow instructions, that's probably not good. So
Yeah.
2 years down the road, when you're over it, you're really not doing it. That's sort of.
Yeah, I mean, we posted several months ago for a graphic designer job, and the hiring manager for that position was like, this is what I want them to do. And so in the application process, it was like, step 1,
Yeah.
send an email to jobs@evoshield.com with the subject line, like, graphic designer position at EvoShield. And then it was like, step 2, write in the body of the email, in 300 words or less, describe why we should hire you. And then step 3, it was attach your resume, a cover letter, and your online portfolio. And so it was so easy for me as the HR director at the time to just, I would go through and I was like, well, they didn't do that, they didn't do, and so it was like, you just immediately weeded people out. So it was like, well, if they're not even gonna follow those basic instructions on the application, then it's probably not the right position for them. So
Yeah.
that is number 1, just
That's
make
a
sure
good
you
one.
follow the
Yeah.
instructions.
And if it says don't call, then don't, because it's hard to take time to do that, because most HR people, while there are a few that are recruiters, most of us aren't. So we do payroll and training and everything else and recruiting. So we have all those things on our plate. And so when people call just to follow up, we'll talk about that in a minute, the best way to do it without sort of bothering people. But if they say email it in, then email it in, and we usually get it. This we talked about professional online profiles. Just be careful what you're doing out there. I know they're going to talk about branding with you all as well. Great cover letters. Again, we talked about explain why you have a gap in employment or why you're looking for a job now that your professional athletic career is over. Things like that. Just let us know what's
Right.
going on. Why
Or
are
like,
you doing?
sometimes we will get resumes from someone who lives in California, and we're kind of like, you know, and we'll sort of set it aside because we're like, we're probably not going to be able to pay for relocation expenses for this job. But if they explain in their cover letter that their husband is coming to grad school at UGA and they're moving in a month, then we're like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah, especially if
So
it's
we'll
a
take
lower
a closer
paying
look
job
at
or
it.
something.
Mhm.
If it's like an entry level position and you're coming from California, we need to know why. 'Cause
Right.
I may not call you. You may be fine with it being $30,000. I don't know, but we don't want to weed you out when you could have just told us, like, I'm coming there for family or, you know, that kind of thing. This is another one of our pet peeves. So after you've submitted and everything, some people will follow up with a phone call to make sure we get it. If you can find our phone number to call us, which is okay, especially if you leave a message like, hey, just want to make sure you got my stuff. Would love to talk to
And
you.
do you always tell people to follow up when you?
Follow up usually by email,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
because sometimes I have a phone number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
there's a fine line to that.
Yeah.
basically, any career counselor is going to tell you follow up, and that's what I did too. I always followed up, like, which is great. You definitely want to follow up. That's important. But there's a line following up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once is great,
Once-
and then we don't like either where there's been a trend lately. I don't know.
There's,
It says like,
they'll send you an email and they'll say, it'll say something like, I will be calling you tomorrow to set up a time for us to get together and talk. And it's like, No.
Delete. No, some people are like, no, or it's something like, I can't wait to talk to you on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And you're like, wait, no, what? We can talk about Tuesday.
Right.
You know, they're trying to set up the thing, and I'm like, well, I appreciate that.
It's
but,
sort of encroaching on your, I mean, because
It's kind of like off-putting.
right, it's very off-putting, and like Amy said, most HR professionals are doing multiple different roles, and so I would love to be able to sit down and talk to everybody that applies. We would be able to find great people, I'm sure, but it's not realistic. You're not ever going to be able to do it.
Yeah, so that's our thought on it.
I can kind of speak. Before I worked here, I worked for EvoShield as customer support, and so a lot of times I was answering. People would call in wanting to speak to one of these ladies, and I would be the one to get the phone. And one girl who had applied for a job called in. I took the call, and she was angry. She wanted to know who. She wanted to talk to Amy. Wanted to know, you know. I turned my stuff in a month ago. She didn't call me back. Y'all are slow at this. She should be getting. I mean, it was basically chewing me out.
For me,
she's
not doing my job.
She's wanting a job with this company, and she's getting mad that they haven't let her know if she's going to interview or not. So that would definitely be a don't.
And I would say it was an internship.
Yeah, I think it's an internship position.
So I'm like, I'll call her back.
Yeah, so
Thanks, Matt.
yeah, with me, I mean, when stuff like that happens, we made a note, and we were immediately like, I got to go find Amy and tell her what just happened.
Yeah, and then of course I looked at my email and there were several emails from her. Like, I don't know what you think you're doing at your job, but you're not doing it very well. And so I wrote her name down and I put her on the, we're not ever talking to you. So I think I told them, like, if anyone ever hears from this person, we're not hiring her. And I would be happy to communicate that to her.
Well, and the pestering and professionalism too is a lot of people use their personal cell phones now as their work phones as well, and so that is one of my pet peeves. Is I know that, you know, I'm an employee of EvoShield all the time, even when it's not 8 to 5. But when someone's calling me while I'm trying to eat dinner or hang out with my son, or really early in the morning, I know you've gotten that, like 6 a.m. It's like
6 a.m.
call during work
Yeah.
hours if you're gonna call.
Yeah, that's not good. And it was an applicant, it wasn't an employee, so, you know, you get a 6 a.m. phone call, it scares you sometimes. So, anyway, I was not super nice to them. But that's sort of, was that most of our main thing? That is what we wanted to talk to you about. We also wanted to tell you again that we are human, as you can see, hopefully, and we want to have good employees. We want you all to work for us. You know, we want to find the right space.
What y'all do at EvoShield?
What do we do over there?
What is EvoShield? I'm just
Yeah.
everybody all the time.
Yeah, we make protective custom gear. And we brought shirts for
This is our
y'all.
little-
You want
Get a
them?
mold in it.
Yeah,
Fix your done.
Georgia wears our stuff now.
Football?
Football, baseball.
He used to come in the locker room and try
Yeah.
and pick a few people.
Y'all do insoles too?
No. But they do, they started mostly with baseball, with the wrist guards and elbow guards, and then they went to football where we do the rib shirt that has custom molding gear to your ribs to protect that, and then the thigh pads too. Yeah, so I know we're doing Georgia, I think they're wearing our thigh pads and stuff too. So, yeah, so we're right here in Athens. Yep. And it's, and we do have a lot of, they were started by Georgia athletes, so, it's a great company too. We probably are not currently looking for folks, but we always like to.
So what is Bob? What is he? What
He's the
Bob?
CEO.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew he was always big or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like first day of class, you gotta listen and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The teacher gonna give you speech, let you know what's up and all that. And I'm starting listening. I'm like, man, he gonna be with this, with him, he gonna be with this guy.
He's a good person to know. He knows a lot of people in Athens, so that's what I was saying. Go talk to him.
We had
Sure, yeah, that's
the COO of Zaxby's, he came in.
Oh, y'all talking? Yeah, the Zaxby's person.
Robert-
Yeah, he knows all those guys.
Yeah.
And you know, EvoShield's been on the Bulldog 100 like a bunch of times, fastest growing businesses in Athens. So, it's great.
Coffee's good.
You should. He knows the Jittery Joe people. You should go after Jittery Joe with them. Yeah.
I'm gonna holler at him.
And I'll give you my card too, so you have
You
it.
can't turn on a baseball game without seeing EvoShield.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and now, you know, RG3 was wearing our rib
Yeah.
shirts.
And I was trying to pull up one of our commercials, but
Yeah,
it's,
it may not be.
I don't know if the internet's connected, but
Y'all on Instagram too?
yes.
Yep, you and Sheila is. Yeah, and we've got, like we said, we brought some shirts for y'all and some socks just to take with you.
Hey, can I ask you a question
Yeah.
on it? Cause you know I'm taking like class and stuff, right? You in my class? In school?
Yeah, you.
And we was on the topic, right, you know what I'm saying, when it come to, about applying for a job, the scrimmage for it or whatever, you know what I'm saying, the social life. I don't really do social media like that, I've never been a fan of it, but, you know, sometimes I wanna, like, companies, they may kinda, like, discriminate versus what you got posted, you know what I'm saying? Like, is that
Yeah,
kind of
I
a
mean,
bad
it's a thing. You've gotta be careful because, I mean, we've looked up people before and I thought, ugh, that's
You
not
kinda
great.
represent your company now versus
Yep.
your own self.
It's a fine
Yeah,
line. I mean,
it's
it's sort of an
tough.
ethical dilemma too with
Yeah,
HR
for us,
professionals of, because people have personal lives,
Yeah.
and so you have to kind of, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you have to understand that, you know, people might have some of that, but if it's something where you're like, I don't know that that's going to represent our company well, then that's probably when it becomes
Yeah.
a major issue.
And you know, just keep, if you can, you know, like your Facebook lockdown to your friends or something. We're not gonna get passwords or look into or ask you for your passwords. But we just kind of do maybe a Google search just of your name just to see
You
what
can't be
comes
over
up.
there turning up and doing all this and that. Going on the east side.
We're gonna have a workshop on that specifically, so there'll be another workshop where that's all we talk about. We'll pull up
That's great.
a bunch of pictures and
Yeah.
Instagram accounts and all that to show you
I
do's and
had
don'ts.
information like that in
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
teens of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like by commenting, by tweeting, you know what I'm
Right.
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
Small stuff, like the head coach would.
Yeah.
And he ain't even cutting chicks.
Yeah, your head coach on that. He said, yeah. Well, that's sort of our thoughts on it current too, and we're happy to stay around and help if y'all have any other questions, and then like I said, we'll get you some shirts that
You
you
can find out about Evo shit.
Right, yeah,
You
it's
might need to look us up. Yeah, you can tell Bob that you met us.
Y'all have questions for us though before we?
So what actually, what we're gonna be, kind of doing, you say, is it gonna be more of a tutorial session or, kind of what?
Yeah, we're gonna do, a lot of stuff is gonna be via the laptop. So via the laptop, what'll end up happening is we'll have a workshop probably every 4 or 6 weeks, so not very often. So you guys, maybe once a month, we'll do something like this. And then in between, you guys will email back and forth with Matt on the assignment. So after this one, you guys, he's gonna give you a hypothetical job that you're gonna apply to. And you're gonna create a resume and a cover letter to apply to that job. And he's gonna do it like they talked about, where he'll give you some specific instructions. Here's what the job is, here's who we're looking for, follow these directions, to submit a resume and cover letter. So you work on a resume and cover letter, submit it, and then he'll work with each of you individually through laptop on sharpening up your resume and your cover letter, just to keep working on it until you really like it. Then what's gonna happen is we've actually got real employers who are going to, who are in our system, who want to hire former student athletes who graduate here. And we have a portal where all of our student athletes will upload their resume and apply for a job. So this will end up being your resume. It's a little like a little mini LinkedIn. So you'll create your profile or resume, and then you will show it to these employers if you decide you want to apply for jobs. So I'm just going to get you guys started by doing projects. So the idea is by the time you graduate, you've gone through this program, you've done an internship, and you've got a job waiting for you.
That was something, man.
That's great.
So, you know, people like to use them type of skills, you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Amy, I'm just a college athlete, just to let you know. So, I mean, I know what it's like to, first of all, work a lot on practice and everything and workouts, and then try to figure out how to say that on a resume. Again, kind of like what they were talking about, to make it sound like I do have these skills, I have this, professional qualities that easily fit into like a leadership role, analyze role, team kind of role. So it is very, very important. So right now, oops, that's not on.
Oh, I moved the screen here.
So we're just going to talk about sort of how to set up that resume, some of the different sections, so that as you go to write your own, you'll be able to do this really easily. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about our career services, so you'll know how to access us. So really quick, have you guys been to the career center? Oh, you have? Great. Have you met with a career counselor? Or?
No, I haven't like just been like I just know where.
You know where it is. Awesome. So we're in Clark Hall, which is right next to the Tate Student Parking Deck, if you guys know where that is. We're actually on the second floor, so the first floor is Disability Resources, so we're on the second floor. Anytime you would like to meet with us, we actually have two different ways to do this. You guys are alumni, so we actually have an alumni career consultant who works out of Atlanta. So if you're a little bit closer to Atlanta, where you're living right now. But then we also help all alumni at our main office here in Athens as well. So each of our consultants takes care of a specific major group. So I take care of all social science majors, but then we also have consultants for Terry, Grady, education, and then the other Franklin majors as well. So just know that whenever you call and you're actually meeting with someone, it's very tailored to whatever degree you're looking at. Okay, or your past degree if you've already graduated. Who's already graduated? Or you're still working in your degree, correct? Okay, just making sure. And again, just to make an appointment, that's the number you call, but I'm going to give you a career guide so you'll know all of this stuff. So just a brief overview. Okay, and another thing, we do these stats every single year. We do a post-grad survey, and 70%, it's 70% more likely you will get hired if you're able to use our Career Center resources. So please feel free to come by and see us anytime, okay? I'm going to talk a little bit later about that. So, in general, you guys, what are some of the resume challenges you've had in the past? You know, if you've had to have a resume for class, or a job, or an internship, or things like that, even your team, what are some of the challenges you guys have faced?
Work experience.
Work experience?
I think the first one you said about how we put like the practice, like the hours that we put in
Right.
to practice for sport
Right.
on paper.
Yep. Anything else in addition to the experience? Okay, so what is a resume? It is literally your marketing document, kind of like what these ladies talked about. It is sort of their first picture of who you are as an individual, along with the cover letter, and so it really does need to market you well. From the descriptions that I'll show you how to do, it really is that first picture. And so some of the different things you really want to think about highlighting are that education piece. Because you guys are still finishing up your degree, that's probably going to go first on the resume. After about, I would say, 5 years of actual work experience, that can go much lower on the resume, okay? Any type of experience, and I think experience in multiple ways. It could have been team involvement, could have been volunteering, could have been job shadowing. Experience is kind of lumped together. A lot of people think it's just work experience, but it's really all different types of experience. You could have mentored, you could have done all these things that, really show your leadership capability, your communication skills. And then I'm going to talk to you about different types of skills that, you potentially can put on there, and also accomplishments. You really want to talk in details as they talked about. All right, so, and also you really want to highlight all the positive things first. Kind of like what they said, employers really only look at your resume for about 7 seconds to determine, do I even want to read further? And so you really do need to accent what is the most important thing on probably that top half of your resume, so it causes them to continue reading down the page. And then, like they talked about, focusing on achievements and successes, and then also emphasizing any of those computer skills or any language skills or communication skills that you also have, team building skill, as you have an athlete, and you are an athlete. All right, so an overview. The formatting, try not to use a template. Okay, I'm going to give you some really great templates in our career guide that you can take a look at. The reason I say don't use a template is because sometimes the margins are a little bit off. And so it gets a little bit tricky when you actually go back and you're trying to format your resume later, because you've got all this code going on within that template type resume. So try to do this in just a very plain Word document like they talked about. Try to keep it to 1 full page. Eventually, after you've had several years of work experience, it'll probably go to 2 just because you have lots more to fill it in. For right now, let's keep it at 1. You can go down to 0.5 margins. Get a lot on that page, so not just 1 inch, but actually 0.5. And then try to use 10 to 12 font. Font that's a little bit bigger, like Arial and Times New Roman. If you do it at 12, it actually looks really, really big. Calibri, I'm trying to think of some other smaller fonts. You can actually do those at 12 and it looks the right size. If you're using Times New Roman or Arial, I would probably go 10 or 11 just to get a little bit more on the page. And then also, I'm going to talk to you about how to use bolds, italics, just to be able to emphasize different sections. And it looks a little bit more creative, but it's still black and white. It's still very plain text. And then be consistent with formatting. So the very first section you're going to have on your resume is your education section. So however you set up the education section, you're going to want to take that same formatting style throughout the rest of your document. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. This one is kind of iffy. Yes, you can put the dates on the right side of the page, but you can also put them on the left, aligning with the different types of experience. So it's really just, again, keep it consistent all the way down. And then also using bullets and not paragraphs. There shouldn't be any full sentences on your resume, so it's always about action verbs with that bullet point, because it allows your eye to be drawn right to what you've accomplished in that role. And then action verbs. And I'm going to show you a really awesome page in our career guide that you're going to be able to utilize with that. Okay? All right, so making a really good resume, great. They talked a lot about, what their perspective is when they get that resume. When you guys are actually doing the job search, you really want to pay attention to the qualifications and job duties that job encompasses, okay? Because that is what you're going to be using to actually write this very tailored resume. For right now, as you're building your resume, I call it a master resume. So I want you to have a resume that I want you just to write that really does showcase some of the things that you've done over the past few years. Once you have that master resume, it's really easy then to go tailor that master to various things that you're applying for, okay? Because one resume does not fit all. It may fit some things the same, but then some things may be a little bit different. Okay, and always be clear, concise, to the point, very much like what they said. They don't need a lot of fluff. Get to the point of what you're applying for. And also, like they talked about, consider their perspective. If you put your resume down in front of you and just pretend you're the employer, would you hire yourself? Based on the experience that you're seeing and compared to this job position that you're looking at. All right, so general resume headings. These are just some general things to consider. They talked a little bit about the objective. This is more of an optional thing. If you have room for it, if you think it's appropriate, it's fine to include an objective, but it is more of an optional thing. Definitely include education, any certifications you have. Experience would come after education. And then some of the additional headers that you might want to use are different skills that potentially you have. Leadership, some of the computer skills, language. Honors can actually go into two different places. You can put a literal honors column if you want to, or you could actually put that under education as well. It kind of depends on the number. Are you guys in like a research type degree? Some people are, and so research experience can be appropriate, but then also campus and community involvement. So any clubs you've been a part of, any fraternity? No? Yes, time for that. And then, of course, athletic experience. Like they talked about, make it your own. All right, so this is how to set up some of your personal information. So you'll notice just some of the very basic things, your address, phone number, email, and also if you have a website or a LinkedIn account or any other type of portfolio or anything that would draw to you, okay? You could potentially put your Facebook, but I would say probably, website or LinkedIn is more appropriate. So you can notice two different ways to do this. The Aaron Higgins on top, I love that header for individuals who are running out of space, and so they really need to lengthen it to that one line. And then the second one, it's just a little bit more stacked, so if you're still trying to fill out that first page, that's a good way to do it. Any questions so far, by the way? I want to make sure I'm not going too fast.
I like your email voicemail appropriate too.
Yeah, and this is an example of that. Having a catchy, email, it's probably not the best, especially when you're applying for a job. So it can be something very simple, like your first name, last name. Very, very simple. But I have seen this.
We had like JJ Rocksteady.
Very creative.
Email
addresses.
We had an applicant that was ATL dime piece. And I didn't catch it at first, so I'm looking, I'm like, wait a minute. That went in a different pile.
Yeah.
I mean, have a personal one.
Yeah. You know what? The voicemail though, I completely forgotten it was actually, I applied to the job at EvoShield. And again, it's your personal cell phone. Like, I don't know. And I had set up my voicemail, and while I was setting it up, my husband yells in the background, and I went, ugh, and I hung up, and I forgot to change it. So for like several weeks, my voicemail was, "Hi, this is Elise." And I realized after someone called me about something professional, I was like, oh my goodness, that was my voicemail. So yeah, that stuff actually happens.
How do you guys feel about your email and voicemail?
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so if you decide to do an objective, you want to be very, very specific. So I'm going to show you some examples. You want to be specific to the internship or the job that you're looking at, the type of company you're looking at, and also the skills that sort of back that up. So this is one example. To obtain a summer internship, and I would even say, you know, even more specific, at EvoShield, in the multimedia development, on and on and on, backing it up with your skills. So if you're going to include something, just be as specific as possible. When I critique a lot of resumes, I do see someone just saying, you know, using all these skills, but not really addressing what they're applying for. So this is sort of the whole package in one. Here's another example. So just be very, very specific, to the point. But again, this is an optional section. Second section, let me show you a couple different examples here. You want to think about the format that you're going to use in this section because you're going to be using it throughout the rest of the document. So I'm going to give you lots of different examples that you can pull from. The University of Georgia is a very well-known school, and so usually I would suggest actually bolding the University of Georgia and then bolding all the different organizations throughout your resume, just because people most likely are more informed with that organization than potentially your job title or your major. You can do, you know, things like italicizing your major and then also your job titles throughout. You can put, if you had a minor, you can put your GPA if you would like to, and then any other types of experiences, study abroad, again, certifications, things like that, if you'd like to, okay? Any questions about this section? It's pretty straightforward. All right, and then your experience. Let's take a look at this. So this, I do see this a lot on resumes. So it is easy to read, right? You have the name of the organization, American Red Cross, you have their title, and then a very short explanation of what they did. So they coordinated, they marketed, they wrote, right? If you were an employer, what would you think about this person? What have they told you about them? Have they told you anything? What haven't they told you?
What kind of, I guess.
What they coordinated.
Yeah.
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 The specifics.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is the rewritten version of this. So you can see just a lot more detail, and then I was going to show you this. I mean, numbers, statistics, percentages, talking about the results. You know, what did you accomplish in that role? I see a lot of people putting in, like, literally transposing their job, like, duties onto their resume, and that's not really what you want to do. Talk about what you actually accomplished in that role. You know, if you were on this, what teams did you guys play for? Remind me. Like, well, what kind of, I'm sorry, I don't know your sport. Football. So it's, okay, talk about that. You know, what did you accomplish as a team player on that team? If you're a team leader, you know, mentor, whatever it might have been. All right. And some of these special selections. So I included this one section because I knew you guys played sports. So you can potentially set up a section like that. And again, mine's a little bit more vague because it's going to be very specific to you. But you know, always talk about the hours that you put into your sport every week, because a lot of employers are not familiar with the rigorous workouts and scheduling that you guys have. So, you know, putting that you did work out 20 hours in addition to a full-time class load, that's really, really important. And then some of those other things like team building, mentoring, things like that. The professional memberships, you know, if any of you are part of other, you know, campus organizations, that would be a great place to put that. I know for myself, I had no time to be a part of anything else other than my team, but you may have been, so.
Well, especially some of the awards. Like
Yeah,
I know
some
we
of the
have some
awards,
Georgia players that
absolutely.
won that
Iron something?
Iron Man or Iron.
Oh,
Those are big.
Uh-huh.
And tell us a little what they mean
Right,
when you do it.
right.
Because, I mean, it sounded great, but then when I found out what it meant, I was like, holy cow.
right.
That's amazing. He was never late. He was never.
Being insane to get that award.
Well, that sort of fits with him who's there. But he is an amazing worker.
Very brainwashed. I got terminated. That's what I did.
But it's like forever, right? It's not, it's the whole year.
Right.
And he got it like 2 times or
He did.
something?
He got it all 4 years.
Oh,
He took
okay.
the one, and it was because
He got hurt.
sick. He got the
Sick.
flu or something.
Yeah.
And he was very
You don't miss
upset
any,
about it.
yeah,
So
so
that's the award if you don't miss a practice.
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
You're not
You gotta
late.
be insane. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, all your
Yeah.
attendance class.
Yeah, every class.
Training.
Yeah. So he works for us, and it's impressive. He's intense,
Fitting, yes.
but things like that. I mean, he's kind of intense.
Yes.
It kind of fits.
Yeah, exactly. So proofreading your document, this is a place that we can come into play, the Career Center as well to help you. This was a stat from our career fair last fall. Only 47% of employers thought that students presented a resume that was professional. That's really not good. Okay, what happened to the other 53? You know, and so a lot of our students who even don't play a sport, they're not showcasing their talents on through a resume. So this is really a chance for you guys to shine through this document. Okay. Okay, so just things like spelling errors, textual spelling errors like this. Spell check won't pick this up because both words are correct. And so just reading through it a few times to make sure all the words, make sure your grammar is correct. With things that are currently going on, so experiences you're currently getting, you want to make sure you use present tense verbs, and then things that are already concluded, use past tense verbs. Okay. And then the areas of consistency, again, like I talked about earlier, just making sure all the sections are consistent. Yes, there's all right. First of all, any questions before I hand out the career guides? How do we feel about that? Pretty straightforward? Yeah.
What area Brittany are doing the career thing?
Brittany Kiner?
Yeah.
She does all family consumer science and
That's the one.
housing.
Yeah, we see her all the time.
Yeah.
She always doing the same thing.
Yep, she's awesome. She's awesome. So, okay, if you turn to page 24, this is going to be the start of our resume section. And again, this is going to give you some nice, section by section, how the headers, how could you set them up, how could you set up education. It's going to give you some nice ways to phrase things. But you're really going to use, eventually when you have a job description in front of you, you're going to use some of that same terminology they're using in that very tailored resume. And again, that's something we can help you to do. Then we have 8 different resume examples, a full-on resume, what that looks like, just so you have an idea of what the flow, okay? And you can do things like lines. I like to do all caps for headers. It just helps things stand out a little bit from the rest of the font. And again, it's up to you what you want to bold, but just know that whatever you bold, that's what's going to be seen by the employer first. So you just want to
if you copy one of these resumes and turn it in, you're about, you all right?
Yeah, I would say you always want to be probably with one of us, just to make sure. The biggest thing is, yes, the look of it needs to be pretty similar, okay? It's mostly though about, they do look good, don't they? These are students who've actually gotten hired with this resume. These are actual resumes. And we've gotten students to use them. Yep.
Oh, Abraham.
Yep.
Oh, Abraham Baldwin.
That's right.
Abraham had a lot mixed up with him. Oh, Abraham had a long night.
I do want to show you this page. 30 and 31. This is the action verb page I told you about. Try to stay away from words like worked, helped, things like that. Try to use really awesome words just to really showcase the things you accomplished.
These are great. These are so good. These are good just writing emails.
Oh yeah.
Always trying to make things.
Yeah, that's great. There's something I would add to this, and that is when we were talking about being specific and that sort of thing, but also being honest. Don't take credit for things that you didn't actually do, and so I totally agree. Like I try to stay away from the assisted with or helped with, but sometimes you really did only assist with or help with. So you kind of just start with that.
Yeah. Just help.
Yes.
Yeah. So try to stay away from that. I do want to highlight 34, which is a comparison. This is kind of what we want you guys to do. This is a job with Youth Villages. We've sort of highlighted, the different types of keywords. You can notice that on the left. And then on the right, that's a specific cover letter that is written specifically for that job. And so, even as you go through your own job search, I would say, print out some of the job descriptions you're seeing. Do some highlighting. What are some of the keywords they're using? You can actually put that in your resume and cover letter. So that's definitely a strategy. They talked a little bit about the references. If you'll notice on page 35, that's actually how we would like you to set up your reference page. You'll notice there's the name, what their role is in that organization, what the organization is, the address, their direct phone number, email, and then what their relationship was to you. Were they a coach? Were they a supervisor, mentor? Who were they? Okay? The pages following that it has a lot of the different correspondence. So thank you notes, cover letters, like what do you do after an interview. We also have a networking letter on 37, so especially if you're interested in a job, or you just want to network with someone, you know, you don't know this person, like you guys mentioned Bob earlier, I don't know Bob, but pretend like you want to network with Bob. You know, you could use a very similar format, just to introduce yourself, kind of talk about, you know, what you think you want in a career. This is not like an application, this is more just an intro, you know, letter for them to get a little idea about what you're looking at. And then also you'll notice on page 38, you know, there are other types of letters: acceptance, decline, withdrawal, and request for extension kind of letters. So you'll notice they're pretty short. I think a lot of people think a cover letter, or any letter for that matter, employers has to be really long, and really think 3 paragraphs tops, 3 to 4. They don't have time to read 2 pages of your passion. So really think about tailoring that down. And again, I would say, you know, anytime you're interested in a job, do a draft, come to the Career Center, we can help you sort of tailor it a little bit more, and at least show you how to do that, and then you can do it the rest of your life, like I said. So, yeah. Questions about
I
that?
did it one time. I thought my resume was on point.
Yeah.
But man, I had to make so many corrections.
We all have corrections. We all do. I remember like you said, I remember my first resume. It was a mess. It was a total mess. I had to have a resume my junior year to get an internship, and it was a mess. I thought it was beautiful, but it was a mess. I mean,
Get the Career Center to do it though. I've reviewed my husband several times and it always ends up in an argument. So just get a professional to do it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we have lots of other resources here, obviously. Feel free how to dress for interviews. There are pages on interviewing, job search. If there's a specific field, though, you're thinking about going into, I would say that would be a great time to actually come meet with one of us, because we kind of know the different fields that are students into. We can help you navigate that process. And then we also have our career fairs. You guys know about our career fairs? So we'll have another big one coming up in January. Again, it's a great time to just network with employers to learn about opportunities. And then our resident job board, DogLink, is amazing. So we have thousands of jobs on there right now. And they want targeted UGA students. So, and I talk to employers all the time, and I forgot to say, I'm the liaison between the Career Center and you guys at Athletics. So they tell me all the time they're very interested in athletes because they do admire that teamwork, that leadership, that commitment, also that competitiveness. You know, for certain industries, very valued, very valued. Because I know you mentioned earlier, you know, would they look at this bad knowing they're an athlete? Most of them know. Most of them really appreciate that fact because they know how hard you guys work. So, yeah.
We post on DogLink.
Oh,
for sure.
fantastic.
Internships and jobs, everything. It's great. We've got some good people. And we also hired interns and things before too. So several of our full-time employees were interns at one point. So that's because then we get to know you and know how you work. That's a good thing. And then even if you don't get a job there, you have that on your resume.
What's some of the experience you'd like? I mean, obviously your sports. Any other additional experience, so you're kind of questioning, should I put this on there? That's okay. Do you have a good sense of how to actually push your sports experience on resume? You feel pretty good about that? To be able to talk about some of the things you've accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, like, I made my resume like off of the Career Center.
Good.
You know, you go
Online
to-
resume
yeah.
creator?
I did mine like that, and I mean, I think that was the hardest part, just the experience part, like trying to put how we dedicated so much time to football and like meetings and class and just different stuff, like a lot of little stuff, you know.
Yep.
It was hard, kind of, like, I guess, putting in words on the resume.
Yeah.
But
You did it.
yeah, I think so.
And again, as you look at the job description, I mean, what are they looking for? What kind of person are they looking for? Leadership? Customer service, communication, what are they looking for? And so just kind of use those words, you know, in your resume. Talk about how did you communicate with your coach? How did you, exhibit team-like leadership within that team that you were part of? Things like that.
Suzanne, what kind of things can, let's say, through the rest of this year, what kind of things can current students do short of getting job experience to put on there, whether it's internship or job shadowing or something like that?
Yeah, we actually have a program called Intern for a Day, which is really awesome. It actually just closed for the fall, but we'll have it again in the spring. Intern for a Day is really great, and we have lots and lots of companies who participate, and You just have to go to one orientation session. It should be, I don't remember when he'll do it. He'll probably do it in February, because you'll need, a couple months to actually do it. But you can sign up to actually do an internship just for that one day, and it looks really great on the resume. Because you get exposure to that field before you decide, I wanna go into this, dip your toes in, I don't know if you guys participate in internship day. Something you may wanna consider, it's a really great program. But again, it's not a long time commitment, it's just 8 hours, and then you can choose the company you wanna go to, so really great. In addition to that, a lot of the companies on Dogling are internship related, and so if you do want more of a short-term experience, that's a really great way. But any type of job shadowing, just very casual, I'm not speaking for you guys, but, if you were interested in HR, for instance, in a sports-related company, would there be an option to potentially job shadow at a company like this? Yes. And so things like that could definitely look really great on the resume as well. So, yeah, because I know there's definitely a time crunch, just because, you have a full-time life right now. But what are some of those things that you could potentially do just to highlight those skills that you have in your resume, in addition to the sports? Okay.
Especially volunteer activities and things, I think are really big for us.
Yeah.
Because we know how busy you are, and if you've taken time to do additional stuff, it makes an impact for sure.
It doesn't even have to volunteer 1,000 hours.
No.
Volunteer an hour here, an hour there, and then you'll be able to put it on your resume. So,
That's good. Me and him, we volunteer. We coach downtown Falcon.
That's awesome.
Do you really with downtown ministries?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
That right
Especially for
there,
us,
that would
we
make
do-
something really
yeah.
stand out.
Yeah, it could be as simple as something like that makes me go, we're gonna call them.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Really, because it just shows so much about the person,
Mhm.
a lot, so especially in a company like ours, and a lot of companies, so be a big deal.
So you feel good about our resume? Decent, at least a little bit better?
Yeah.
We do have walk-ins every single day at the Career Center from 12 to 2. And then we also have our appointments. So you're welcome to schedule an appointment with us. We usually meet with someone for about an hour. Is anybody in the Terry majors? Okay, they're more 40 minutes for a resume, but everybody else is an hour. So feel free to do that anytime, okay? Feel good? All right. It was a pleasure to be with you guys today.
You guys have any other questions or anything?